So I tell you, this fall season, summer, I don't know, it's just, there's been a lot of cloudy days this year. It seems it's just a lot more than usual, so it's been a little bit more difficult to fill the water tank using the solar panels. So the big problem is I used to fill the water tank every day, need it or not. Well, since it's so cloudy, you got to wait a few days so you can use your solar panels to turn the well pump on. Well, if there's a lot of cloudy days, Carolyn also has to do laundry on sunny days. So we are trying to do two things at once. Fill the tank up from days of not filling it, plus all the water that we've used for the wash, and she's running the washer. So I'm not complaining, it's just an obstacle that has been a little difficult this year. So it's no big deal. I just run a generator to make up the loss, but I would sure like not to run the generator. Right now we have two sets of panels. I think everybody knows that. And so we have two charge controllers. So we have 6 panels on one, 6 panels on the other, and both of them run into the same battery bank. I need to clean the terminal on that one. It's starting to get a little corroded. And what I do there is I use water and baking soda. And baking soda will bubble up. Let's like put it in vinegar. You make these volcanoes as a kid. And I use a toothbrush and clean it. So somebody, well, I think somebody trolled me the other day. So those batteries failed you yet? Because everybody seems to think I have to have lithium-ion batteries. I mean, I've watched YouTubers buy these expensive lithium-ion batteries, and they last 3 years, and they happen to replace them. So, $800 just gone. They say they last 10 years, but I've not actually seen that yet. These batteries are 5 years old, and one of them is several years old because it was in the camper. So we just took it out of the camper. Yeah, and I've staggered them. They're not the same age. You're supposed to, with lead acid, you're supposed to buy all new at the same time. I didn't. I bought one, and then a year later bought another one. So they're doing fine. Continues to run everything we have. I have 2 inverters. This one runs the house. It's 1,000 watt. I don't need a lot of electric in the house. But when I run the well, or the camper, or the air conditioner, or whatever, I turn on the big one, and I run it just temporarily. The reason is because when you're not using it, let's say you leave it on, and there's no electric being used. This one runs 2 amps an hour. This one runs 1. So it makes sense to run the little one because you're wasting an amp just having it on. So just use this when you need it. I know people seem to think that's just too much work, but what I'm doing is I'm checking to see how many amps the solar panels are producing, because the sun is still behind the trees a little bit. So we're at 12.5 volts. We only got 11 amps on the one, and 12.5 volts, which that's just, and we're at 13. So I'm gonna have to wait a little bit to get more electricity. You can see they're still behind the trees a little bit, so you can see that they're still a little shaded. Maybe you can. To me, well, here, look at my body shade. So those tree branches cause shading, and you don't get any electric from those. So I will wait a little bit. I mean, it's not a big deal. I just come up here now and turn on the well. I'll set the tank up and get the hose ready. So all I got to do is flip a switch at the well house, and the pump kicks on. What I like to see is being able to get about 20 amps out of each panel. I'll probably have to run the generator, because like I said, Carolyn is also doing laundry. But just a lot of electric being used all at once. And the other problem is you don't really get a good charge on days that it's cloudy. So it's winter time, so we button up the hatches. This is hard to do with one hand. I guess I set the camera down, This is just a styrofoam installation. I don't know, it's like R3. It's not R2. Is that what it is? I don't see a reading on it anywhere. It's not much. Now, whoops, I forgot to put the lid on the last time I filled. Wow, that's a bummer. So we're getting down there quite a bit, about halfway. So it's going to take a lot to fill. The other issue I will have is the well pump runs faster than the recovery rate of the well. It's just an old well, but that's beside the point. So old wells used above ground pumps. These are submersible pumps. And the pump is 15 gallons a minute, I think. And the recovery rate is like 5. So I got to be careful that I don't dry up the well and burn up my well pump. So I run it for about, I don't know what, 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, and then I shut it off, let it sit for 30 minutes so it can fill back up. So I have this insulated for the winter time, and the way I heat it, now of course I know the trolls are just going to tell me exactly how to do it, because you know they don't live off grid. Every suggestion I've been told on how to make this better makes it worse, and most of it is use electric. Well, I just told you, it's cloudy, we're not getting a good charge. Then somebody will say run a generator. Well, if I'm going to run a generator, why don't I just hook up to the electric? Because it would be cheaper to hook up to the electric than it is to run a generator. But somebody will tell me to put a light bulb in here or a heater or whatever. So what I've done is I have a ventilation that comes down into here. So it's above the shower, straight across from the water, oh, I know what I wanted to say, the wood stove. And I have a little fan. It's a 5-watt fan, so I mean it doesn't take any electric. A lot less electric than a light bulb would take, you know, 50-watt, 75-watt light bulb, 100-watt light bulb. So a 5-watt fan blows air through the ventilation and down into here where all the plumbing is. So my plumbing runs through that ventilation, so that it's constantly staying warm. And I've been able to successfully do this for several years down to -4 degrees. After -4 degrees, it gets too much. So when it gets down to -4 degrees, all I do is just shut everything down. Now the tank has never froze. It's just the plumbing freezes. So I just shut everything off. I disconnect the hoses. I drain the pump so I don't break the pump. And then when it warms back up, I hook everything back up. The other thing I can do if I really need water, which I don't because I got the well won't freeze, because what I do there is the pipe that goes down into the well, down towards the bottom, I've poked a little hole in with the drill. And so when you turn the pump on, the water's always spewing out of that little hole just a little bit. But when you shut the pump off, all that water drains back down the pipe. So the pipe's empty. It can't freeze. So I always have water. Not the convenient way. I mean, you know, running that, you got to have a sunny day or run the generator or something, but it's a backup to my primary water source. So we fill the IBC tank up with the well, you know, well, I used to do it every day on sunny days. So that's how I keep this warm in the winter time. But here's the thing, this year I haven't turned the fan on, and it's doing fine. We've gotten down to, I think, 15 degrees the other day. Now, of course, during the daytime, that was at night. During the daytime, it's getting up above freezing. The other thing is when you put water in this, that water's 55, 50, 60 degrees, something like that, coming out of the well. So you're actually raising the temperature inside this box. I think the other advantage I have is I also get some heating from the house coming into the box here. I don't know how much. Another thing I have is I got it sitting directly on the ground. Ground provides heat. There's heat in the ground. Now somebody will tell me to bury this, and it's just too much. Because the problem is you still got to do maintenance on the thing. the pump, you know, you got to fix the pump every now and then, clean the pump, rotate the baffles in it. So now you're having to go down into a hole to do all that work. This has worked fine. I mean, we're talking about 2 or 3 days of not having a tank to run. And people want me to invest billions of dollars to do it. It's just, you know, Americans and laziness. I don't understand what the big deal is, especially since I still have water from the well. I have an RV pump. You can hear it running now. Carolyn's doing laundry, and that RV pump runs into a water heater. It's an on-demand water heater. It's a camping water heater. It's not even a real house on-demand water heater. It hangs in the shower, attached to a propane tank, and that provides all the hot water we need. It gets pretty hot. This one is actually less BTUs than the first one we had. If I ever have to buy another one, I will go back to the original BTUs, because in the wintertime, the water is so cold coming into the house, the lower BTUs just doesn't get the water warm enough. So what you got to do, there's 2 knobs on the water heater. There's the heat knob, so you turn the heat all the way up, but then there's also a flow knob, how much water comes through it. And so you got to slow it down a little bit so that the heat can warm the water for a longer period of time, so you don't get this gushing hot water. It's more of a dribble of hot water. So that was the only downside to buying the smaller BTU. I will not spare costs next time. I'll just buy the most expensive one. I really like that one. So it's a on-demand water heater, and so we have hooked up the wash machine. It's a little bit inconvenient. On washing days, we take the hose from, because it's just a shower. I mean, the water heater is a camping water heater. So you hook it up in your shower tent into your campsite, you pump water into the water heater, and you shower right from the hose. The hose comes right from the water heater. So we just connect the shower head, plug the washing machine into it, because it's one of those portable wash machines that you can buy for an apartment. You know, you can move them around. It's real small. Bought it last year. We hooked that up to the water heater, and then the wash machine, when it needs water, it just turns on the water. So the apartment wash machine, you hook into your faucet of your sink is what it is. So it works just the same, and then when it needs water, the pump kicks on, because there's a pressure differential. Pump kicks on, fills it up. It's done everything we need. We don't have a sink. We you know, when we built the tiny house, we talked about having a sink, but we decided we didn't need it. And now we got the camper. Carolyn does most all the kitchen work in the camper now, so saves us quite a bit of room in that tiny house. I like the system, and I've had it for 5 years. Well, I've actually had it longer than that. When we were traveling, I had a similar system, except it was a bucket instead of a tank. I drilled a hole on the bottom side of the bucket. I ran a hose from the bucket into that water pump, and ran the water pump into the water heater, on-demand water heater. So that system existed prior to the tank. The only thing I did was I took the bucket off and put the tank on. Holds more water. So we've had it forever. But as far as keeping this warm, I've done it for 4 years, and I've had, you know, thousands of people watch my videos, and hundreds of people telling me how to do it different, and not one suggestion has ever suggested to make that I would thought, yeah, that'll be better, I should do that. Not one. So yeah, one thing I've always been told is I should build a tower so I don't need a pump at all. I just get gravity. Well, in order to get enough gravity to turn on the water heater, the tower would have to be 69 feet taller than where the water heater is. So the water heater's probably about up to there on the house. So it's got to be 69 feet tall. Well, can you imagine building a structure like that? First of all, I'm sure at some point the county would say, what are you building? Do you have a permit? What is your engineering structure and all that, you know, all that stuff. And I'm not a good welder, as you saw last summer. I mean, I'm learning how to weld. So I would have to build it out of like 6x6s, you know, huge, probably oak, 6x6s, some huge structure into the air to hold 275 gallons of water. Then I would have to buy a bigger pump for my well, because my well pump would not have enough strength to pump water up into the tower. Then I would have to figure out how to keep it warm in the winter. So I don't understand how having a tower so I can get rid of a $20 pump makes sense to me. The engineering that would have to go into that would be mind-blowing. So, and I saw videos of somebody who actually built a tower. It wasn't 69 feet in the air, and he put it on a tank on top of it, and you know, I know he watched my videos, and he was saying other YouTubers refuse to do this, and he was talking about how great his tower is. And the first windstorm came around, snapped one of the legs, fell over, so he had to redo it. I haven't had to redo this. Yes, my plumbing has froze, but I haven't had to redo it. I've always had water, never without water. So sometimes keep it simple, silly, is the best method. So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was working on something. So if I can inspire you to kiss it so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.